Welcome everyone to another deep dive. Today we're getting into something a bit different, looking at 3 listener accounts that are genuinely unsettling. These aren't, just ghost stories. They're these moments where everyday life kind of twists, becomes something really chilling. And we're not just here to tell the stories, we want to unpack them, figure out what makes them hit so hard, perception, fear, the unknown lurking just under the surface.
Exactly. We're looking at the psychology, really. What are those little cues that set off alarm bells? How do people actually react when things just don't add up? When they face something, inexplicable. It's more than just what happened. It's about what these moments show us about ourselves,
Yeah.
Our instincts, our vulnerabilities.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, let's dive into the first one. This is a childhood memory a listener sent in. It starts out pretty innocently, actually. A day at this annual event, Pumpkin Land, at a local amusement park. You can picture it, right? Candy, pumpkins everywhere, kids dressed up. Our narrator was 7, wearing a Scream costume, all excited after a soccer game.
Sounds pretty normal so far. A typical autumn event.
Right, so the family gets there, and the older brothers, they want to hit the haunted house first thing. Mom goes with the 2 brothers in one car. That leaves the narrator, our 7-year-old, and Dad for the next car. But then, second thoughts. Kid gets nervous, suddenly needs the bathroom. So they get out of line. Dad goes too. The narrator finishes first, waits outside the restroom. Just a short wait, supposedly. But it stretches on. Dad doesn't come out.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Confusion turns into, panic. The kid even goes back into the bathroom. Dad's not there. So now you've got a 7-year-old alone, huge crowd, totally scared they're lost.
That's every parent's nightmare. And the kids too, obviously.
Absolutely. And right then, a man approaches, asks if the kid's okay, asks about parents. The narrator, just wanting help, says they can't find their dad. The man takes the child's hand, and the narrator remembers this specifically, a tight grip. Then he pulls out this really old phone, described as an archaic Nokia brick.
A Nokia brick? Wow, okay.
Yeah. He pretends to talk to someone, looking down at the kid, says something like, "Oh, I'm with him right now." Then he hangs up, tells the child that was their dad, and Dad's waiting by the parking lot.
Okay, but wait. Even at 7, something clicks, right?
Exactly. This is what's amazing. The narrator instantly knew. My dad did not have a cell phone.
There it is.
That detail, plus the fact the man couldn't possibly know who was under the Scream mask, it just screamed danger.
It's incredible. That's that pre-attentive processing we talked about. The brain flags the inconsistency before the child even has time to consciously reason it all out. It's pure intuition.
It really is. And that intuition probably saved them, because the man starts leading the child towards the exit, towards the parking lot.
That tight grip makes your skin crawl.
Totally. But as they get near the front gate, the narrator spots a female park employee, and this kid shows incredible presence of mind, starts calling out, excuse me, over and over until the employee looks, then just shouts, "I don't know him, please help."
Wow. Grief, kid.
Unbelievably. The man tries to argue, no, I'm with him, but the employee immediately trusts the child, takes the kid's side, and the man, he doesn't stick around. He just turns and walks away fast, disappears into the parking lot. Gone.
Smart move by the employee, too, trusting the child's distress.
Definitely. So the employee gets on the park intercom, missing child, and pretty soon, here comes Dad, described as a nervous wreck, running towards them. The employee explains what happened, the potential predator, the attempted kidnapping. The parents were understandably furious. They tried to get security footage, but back then, the park didn't have any cameras installed.
No cameras. That's rough. No way to identify the guy.
None. And the narrator says it wasn't until years later, as an adult, that the full, sickening weight of what almost happened really hit them.
Yeah, sometimes the implications only become clear with time and perspective. It's just such a stark reminder, isn't it? How quickly a place that feels safe, like an amusement park, can become dangerous. It really highlights the power of instinct, especially a child's instinct, and how crucial alert bystanders are, like that employee.
Absolutely. For quick thinking made all the difference.
And it raises that question, we expect safety in public places, but how do we balance that with needing to stay vigilant? Especially when, like here, the tech we might rely on now just wasn't there.
A really important point. Okay, let's shift gears completely. Our next story takes us somewhere much more isolated. A rural farm. It's mid-October. The narrator's staying with their Uncle Ronnie in this old-fashioned style wooden farmhouse. The guest room window overlooks the crops. And out in those crops, scarecrows. Numerous scarecrows, the narrator says.
Okay, classic rural setting. Scarecrows are pretty standard farm equipment?
Right. But Uncle Ronnie has 3 specific ones he's clearly put effort into. dress them up in sweatpants, flannels, straw hats. He even brags about them, says they really do the trick keeping the crows away.
So the narrator's helping harvest corn. Everything seems totally normal until night falls.
Uh-oh. I have a feeling normal isn't gonna last.
Not quite. After dinner, the narrator is in the guest room on a laptop. Suddenly, thwack, a rock or something hit the window.
Okay, that's not normal.
Definitely not accidental. So the narrator quickly closes the laptop, plunging the room into darkness, hoping it's just a one-off. But then, thwack, a second rock hits the window. Now it's not just weird, it's scary. Real fear sets in.
Yeah, that's deliberate. Someone's out there.
Exactly. The narrator waits a minute, heart pounding, then carefully peeks out the window. There's a full moon, and one of those outdoor security lights is on, illuminating the crops, and one of the scarecrows, the fancy ones Uncle Ronnie made. So they're scanning the area, looking for who threw the rocks, and then something moving in the corner of my eye.
Looks back at the scarecrow and sees one of its arms waving at me.
So that's deeply unsettling.
Deeply. The narrator's first thought, surely I was hallucinating. They even wondered if they were, quote, higher than I realized.
The brain trying to rationalize, right? Trying to find any explanation other than the impossible one.
Totally. The arm moves back down. The narrator slams the blinds shut, feeling physically sick.
I would too.
Yeah.
That image, a scarecrow waving, it taps into something primal. The inanimate becoming animate.
For sure. So they try to wake someone, Uncle Ronnie, anyone, but everyone's dead asleep. Useless. So back to the room, lifts the blind, just a crack. The outside light is off now, but the scarecrow, still there, still hung up on the stick. They wait, watching, expecting it to move again. It doesn't. Eventually they convince themselves again. Hallucination, must have been. And finally go to bed.
But the seed of doubt is planted. That image isn't going away easily.
Not at all. And the next morning, that doubt becomes certainty. Uncle Ronnie bursts in furious. Where did the goddamn scarecrows go?
Oh wow, they're gone.
All three of his special ones vanish from their posts. And that's the moment of nightmarish realization for the narrator. It wasn't a hallucination. Someone was throwing rocks. And someone, or maybe multiple someones, were posing as scarecrows out there while everyone slept.
That is chilling. The waving wasn't random, it was directed. It was mockery, almost.
It gets worse. Later the next night, like 1 or 2 in the morning, the doorbell starts ringing. Continuously, just beep!
Oh, come on. This is getting intense.
Uncle Ronnie goes to the door, opens it, and finds the 3 missing scarecrows propped up right there on the porch, and they're covered in red paint stains, mimicking blood.
Okay, that crosses a line. That's not just a prank anymore, that's threatening.
You'd think. But the police get called, and they, along with Uncle Ronnie, apparently chalked it up to some stupid early Halloween prank by a bunch of immature kids.
Easy to dismiss when you weren't the one who saw it wave, I guess. But this really brings up that question, doesn't it? When does a prank becomes something more sinister? Where's that line? For the narrator, who experienced the waving arm, the rocks, this wasn't just kids being dumb. This was targeted. It was psychological terror.
Absolutely. Taking something familiar and protective, like a scarecrow, and twisting it into a threat, that's deeply disturbing, especially in such an isolated place.
Yeah, it plays on that feeling of safety being violated, even in your own space. Yeah. And the dismissal by authorities can make it feel even worse, more isolating.
Definitely leaves you wondering what else those pranksters might have been capable of. Okay, one more story for today. Let's move to our final account. This one takes place in November. The narrator loves visiting the countryside then. They're at a remote upstate home, usually just a summer place, but they decided to go camping nearby in the woods. They set up in this small circular clearing, just big enough for their tent and a campfire.
Sounds idyllic, actually.
Yeah.
Crisp November air, campfire.
Yeah, they're sitting around the fire, enjoying the crackling sounds. The narrator mentions the girlfriend felt safer with the fire going, plus the warmth. That feeling of peace, though, doesn't last long.
Figures. What happens?
They start hearing noises. Leaves crunching in the distance. At first, maybe an animal, but the sounds get closer, louder, and crucially, they sound bipedal like a human's footsteps, not 4 legs too.
Okay, that changes things.
Yeah.
Bipedal footsteps in remote woods at night, not usually a good sign.
Right. The crunching gets closer and closer and then stops right there just outside the circle of firelight. Around the fire.
Silence.
Silence. And then they notice it. A shadowed outline of someone standing out there, just beyond the fire's reach. Then the shadow figure sits down in one of the empty camping chairs they had set up.
Sits down. Without a word.
Not a sound, just sits there, utterly unnerving. The narrator, trying to be brave maybe, decides to peek out of the tent flap, expecting to see who it is, looks out, and finds no one out there. The chairs are empty.
Whoa, okay, so the shadow was just a shadow.
Well, that's what the narrator thinks for a second. Crawls back into the tent. But the girlfriend whispers, terrified, "What does he want?" Narrator says, "There's no one there." Trying to be reassuring, probably trying to convince themselves to. But the girlfriend insists, "What are you talking about? I see him in the chair right now."
She still sees the shadow, even when the narrator saw nothing.
Exactly. The narrator looks at the tent wall where the firelight is casting shadows and sees it too. The shadow outline of the person still sitting in the chair by the fire. But they know the chair is empty. They just checked. It's impossible.
Okay, this is fascinating. A shared perception, but only of the shadow, not the source. Or different perceptions entirely. One sees nothing, one sees a figure, both see the shadow. It really highlights how subjective fear and perception can be, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Especially in that kind of high-stress, ambiguous environment, the mind trying to make sense of something.
It's incredibly strange. Is the fear creating the shadow? Or is something else going on? You just don't know.
Yet uncertainty is terrifying in itself.
Yeah.
What is real in that moment?
Exactly. So the decision is instant, no discussion needed. We need to go right now. The girlfriend doesn't argue, just follows. But as they scramble out of the tent, she sees the empty chair herself, the one she insisted the figure was in just seconds before, and she screams.
That discrepancy, seeing it, then seeing it gone, must have been horrifying.
Yeah. The narrator yells, "Shut up!" Probably pure panic, and they just bolt, running through near total darkness back towards the mobile home they came from.
Running blind in the woods at night,
Yeah.
chased by who knows what.
While they're running, they hear this horrible groaning sound not too far away, and then one single loud crash of a tree branch or something nearby. That sends them into overdrive, both screaming, "Oh shit!" running even faster. They can't see the mobile home.
How do they find it?
They just keep hitting the lock button on the car keys, hoping to hear the horn. Eventually, beep, 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 they follow the sound and make it back.
Thank goodness for key fobs.
Seriously. They get inside, lock the door, dive under the covers. But the narrator says they felt completely paranoid that whatever was out there followed us. Couldn't sleep, just listening. Heard this clicking or something from the front door. Could be paranoid, could be not. I don't know.
The mind playing tricks after trauma, or a genuine sound? Impossible to say.
Right. The next morning, absolutely scared shitless, they go back to the campsite to get their tent and stuff. Everything is exactly as they left it, except for one thing.
Let me guess.
The chair.
The chair. The one chair we thought we saw the shadow sitting in it was knocked over.
Wow, just that one chair. That is unsettling physical evidence. Or maybe just coincidence. But it feels significant.
It felt significant to them. They said that was the absolute end of their camping trips.
Yeah.
Ever. I can understand why. That experience, it connects to such a primal fear, doesn't it? The fear of the unknown, out there in the dark, in isolation, the ambiguity of the shadow, the conflicting perceptions, the unexplained sounds, that final detail with the chair. It all just amplifies the terror because you can't neatly explain it away.
It really challenges your sense of reality. What did they actually encounter? Was it psychological? Was it something else?
And sometimes the not knowing is the scariest part. It leaves that door open in your mind.
So these three stories, amusement park, farm, campsite, very different settings, but they all touch on that moment where the ordinary just breaks.
Yeah, they really do. They show how fragile our sense of safety can be, how perceptive we might be under stress, like that child's intuition, and just how powerfully the unknown can mess with our heads.
Each one forces you to confront that line between what's familiar and what's terrifyingly strange. Makes you think, right? How much of what we perceive in those intense moments is really out there, and how much is our own mind interpreting or maybe even creating? What stands out to you when you hear these?
It makes you reflect on your own gut feelings, those moments where something just felt off.
Definitely food for thought. Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into these really captivating, unsettling accounts. If this got you thinking, maybe share it with someone else who likes exploring these kinds of strange experiences. And hey, to keep getting insights into fascinating topics, make sure you follow the show.
Okay.
Thanks for listening.